Ghost of Yotei was released amongst public backlash towards some of the people working on the project, but since it's been out, the reception to it has been fairly positive. At least if you go on places like Metacritic, the audience score for this game as well as the critic score is doing pretty well. But there are certain elements to this game and to the release of the game to suggest that maybe things aren't doing as well as what they're letting on, or at least what the reception to the game would have you believe. But before we really get into all this, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you can, leave a comment and hit the like button too, because it helps me out. Rumor, Ghost of Yotei ads quickly scaled back by Sony Japan due to collapsing sales. This is coming from that Park Place. And I want to emphasize, just like the article does, these are rumors. We haven't had any confirmation one way or the other whether or not the game is actually performing well. Now, let me just emphasize, just because a game isn't selling well doesn't necessarily mean that the game is bad, because at least I'll talk about that a lot when it comes to games and movies, saying like it didn't perform well, and people will comment saying like, no, but I really liked it. It's like, yes, you can like something. That doesn't necessarily mean it sold. There's lots of things I like that were financial failures. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm strictly talking about whether or not the game is selling well. And according to what they're saying in this article, even though the reception to it is positive, the sales numbers just aren't looking that good for them. A source close to Sony has told that Park Place that Sony Japan has quietly scaled back its marketing push and paid advertisements for Sucker Punch's Ghost of Yotei less than a week after its launch. According to the source, the decision comes in response to disappointing sales trends and a desire not to lose money on a game that has a declining sales trajectory. The source, who spoke on condition of anonymity, stressed that the internal discussion at Sony have described the situation as unexpectedly soft, given the PlayStation exclusives titles, heavy pre-launch promotion, and supposed strong start. So basically what they're saying is that the sales numbers on this game have not been that good for it, so they're just going to cut back on the advertisement for it, because no use spending money on something that's already not going to perform. And so just a way I try to mitigate the losses. Now, I know some people are going to hear this and say like, no, I've heard that it's sold millions of copies right now. I even have this other article pulled up. Ghost of Yotei reportedly hits 2 million sales in just 3 days. So 2 million sales in 3 days would indeed be pretty good for this. Now, that's a little bit less than what Ghost of Tsushima made, but still 2 million in 3 days, that's nothing to scoff at, and that's still a pretty strong follow-up to it. Ghost of Yotei has reportedly sold over 2 million copies within 3 days of release, making it one of the fastest-selling PlayStation exclusives of 2025. The milestone, spotted on October 5th, comes via a peculiar social media post from Stephen Lin, the director of sales operations for PlayStation China, which was later highlighted by industry consultant Daniel Camilo. Now, this is what kind of threw me for a loop, because they said it came via a peculiar social media post. And this is something that Daniel Camilo actually said when he shared his post, and that the source of this, Stephen Lin, who is actually the director of operations for PlayStation China, but the post coming from Stephen Lin had him as being the director of sales operations for PlayStation Asia, which is a position that doesn't exist. And that's why Daniel Camilo, he even said, he's like, I think this is a fake post, because it's kind of strange that he would have the wrong position as his title. So maybe this is a fake post by someone trying to basically make it seem as if the game is doing a lot better. So they're going to try to make it seem like it's coming from a source on the inside, making an official statement that the game is selling well. But still, Daniel Camilo said, I'm not convinced that this is necessarily real, but it's information about the game supposedly from someone on the inside. So I'm going to share it and just kind of explain why I have my doubts about that sort of thing. So far, though, we haven't had any actual official statements. If you can call this an official statement, then I guess that would be something, but I really wouldn't necessarily say it as much. So we don't have anything official yet, just claiming that the sales figures for this game are good. And I would think if they were selling at least 2 million copies within the first 3 days, that would be something that Sucker Punch as well as Sony would be bragging about or would be touting. But no, we don't got that. And right now we're hearing people say that the sales for the game is kind of soft, which to me, that kind of lines up with what we're actually seeing coming out of the company right now, even though we don't have any confirmation one way or the other. From source, Sony Japan has cut off marketing ads for Ghost of Yotei. They're not happy with the sales decline, stating that they don't want to lose money on a game that has a declining sales trajectory. It's important to note that this information comes from a third-party source, and these claims have not been confirmed by Sony or Sucker Punch. As such, they should be taken with a grain of salt until official sales data is released. And yeah, it's possible that the sales numbers are actually very good for this game. They maybe actually have sold 2 million copies or 3 million copies. We don't know. So this game, like I said at the start of the video, the reception to it, at least on Metacritic, and other similar sites, have been fairly positive for it. So maybe that is going to be enough to carry this game. But maybe it's also one of those situations where the initial sales were in fact good for this game, or at least were promising for the game, but then you'd see the trajectory just kind of drop off. And that's why they're talking about the actual sales trajectory for the game, because it's not, it's like you get a bunch of people who are excited to play this game, so they buy it right out of the gate on launch day, and then the sales just kind of drop off. I mean, we see that in movies all the time, where the opening weekend will have really strong numbers at the box office, and then the following weekend, you'll see a huge drop off like that. Maybe that's kind of the situation we're seeing right now, where they have a pretty good launch day for the game, or a launch week for the game, and then the trajectory drops off. So they figure like, well, if everyone who wants to buy the game already bought the game, no point in advertising it, because we're not going to get new, or at least not going to bring new people into the fold. The rumor aligns with growing observation from gamers and industry analysts that Ghost of Yotei advertising has dried up and at an unusually fast rate. Like I said, that's kind of what we see sometimes with theaters, where they'll have a good opening weekend and then have a steep drop off. It's obvious Ghost of Yotei is not doing very well. Their Twitch viewership plummeted from their peak of 111K viewers to less than 13K in just 5 days. Google Trends show a consistent decline even during the weekend, which is a worst case scenario for the game. Here are some key takeaways. Despite the initial surge of viewers, the viewership did not convert to sales or interest, likely due to unimpressive state of the game. Rapidly declining interest indicates word of mouth marketing is failing, where most people who talk about the game on social media are urging people not to buy it. Promotional marketing stopped shortly after release. This indicates they have stopped any ad spend to maintain reserve cash on hand when the game fell out of trending very quickly on social media. Any promotion of the game includes aspects of the game that were not part of the core gameplay, such as bamboo cutting, fishing, and cooking. This indicates that the company knows its core gameplay was lacking and didn't meaningfully move the needle compared to Ghost of Tsushima. And that last part was cut off right here, but you get the idea. So some people are basically picking up some of the clues that we already know about the game, or at least what can be observed, and trying to draw conclusions of it. Again, just want to emphasize, this doesn't necessarily mean sales numbers are bad for the game, or at least they're bad out of the gate or anything like that. It could very well possibly be the game is performing just well, and for some reason, the studios didn't want to make any official announcement on how good their sales are actually going right now. But some of the things about like how people are not watching it on streaming or anything like that, or a lot of the interest has dried up. You would think because of that they would want to, like try to get some publicity out there, and just releasing a statement talking about your sales figures is going to be, I mean, I guess that's kind of a form of advertisement, but it's like a really cheap form of advertisement, or it's like, it's almost a free form of advertisement, where you just release you just have a press release put out there talking about your sales numbers. And then you get a lot of media outlets giving you that publicity when they're reporting on it right now. But we're not getting any of that from them. And this could very well be something that we saw with The Last of Us Part 2, where that was a game that had pretty good sales numbers within the first couple of weeks, and then they just stopped reporting on the sales numbers because after people got a chance to play it, they didn't like it. Word of mouth wasn't very good. You would see it kind of like touted by media outlets, but audiences didn't really care for it. And then sales figures dropped down, and that's why for Naughty Dog, they stopped reporting the sales numbers for The Last of Us Part 2 after like that first initial surge, because you're obviously going to get a lot of publicity during that initial launch of the game. But then after that, it dries up, and we might be seeing the exact same thing too when it comes to Ghost of Yotei. Now, does that mean the game is going to be a financial failure for them? Well, not necessarily, because the game was relatively cheap to make. I think I've heard reports that it was around $60 million to make. So with the advertisements, it still needs to make a couple $100 million in order for it to be profitable for them. It's probably going to hit that mark if it sells kind of close to what they're reporting at right now. But I mean, if it actually turns out to be a financial failure for them, that's an indicator that, yeah, people were kind of pushing back on a lot of the devs in recent months, because a lot of this public backlash towards the game is a recent development. Some people have tried to say, oh, it's just because it's a woman in the game. But I mean, you look at the announcement trailer for it, the reaction to it with the like to dislike ratio is a pretty strong reaction to it, or at least fairly positive. People seem to be interested in it, or at least willing to give it a shot, even though it's a deviation from the original game, or from the first game. I mean, original as in if it's a big trilogy. No, it's a deviation from the previous game in this series. But then once people started seeing like the comments from the developers of the game and other people working on the project, that's when you got the next trailer after that happened. You got the 1000 Blades trailer, and then you can see the pushback from it. So the negative reaction to this game isn't because it's featuring a female character. It's because people don't like the developers of this particular game. So we'll just have to wait and see what this all means. Did this public backlash actually cause this to happen? And I think there is some truth to that, because even if at most generous, looking at the reporting for this should have been a game that sold better than the first one. But turns out, even at taking them for their word on how many copies are being sold within the first few days, like I said before, it's still less than Ghost of Tsushima. So on something that should have been bigger than the previous one, it's looking like the public reaction to it is still making it perform worse than what we saw with the previous one. And that's just the best case scenario for Sucker Punch right now. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Do you think that Sony and Sucker Punch probably should release the sales numbers if they are in fact doing good, or do you think they should be keeping quiet about it and just kind of leave people to speculate whether or not the game is actually performing well? Comment below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to hit that like button and share the video out there, because it helps out with the channel. Thank you.